10 mixing tips that changed my life, and I'm sure they're gonna help you. Let's get into it. So the first and most important mixing tip that I ever learned was to gain stage, okay? Gain staging will alleviate the need for over-processing. It'll also help you poke out the elements in a mix that are most important, okay? This will also help with clashing of elements. For example, if you have a kick and a bass and you find yourself immediately grabbing an EQ and starting to try and, make use of subtractive EQ, try out gain staging first, okay? Oftentimes we can find that if we place one element above the other, we can pretty much alleviate the need for over-processing, all right? So definitely try it out. Definitely helped me. Tip number 2, and that is to make use of panning, okay? There is no reason to just immediately gravitate towards stereo field editors like flanges and choruses and stereo wideness and things like that. Once you have gain staged your mix, especially in instrumental, drums, synths and things like that, once you've created space, you can then create even more space by simply panning things out, okay? Listen to rock music, you'll hear oftentimes the guitars are panned very hard left and very hard right, and this pretty much allows the human ear to hear these things distinctively without the need to go crazy in the stereo field and really essentially cramp your mix with all of these things that are not really needed, okay? So definitely stick to the basics and simply mono pan your elements. You'll find that things will stick out a lot more. They won't feel as crunched up together. Try this on a drum kit. Pan your hi-hat a little bit left or right, whichever direction you like. Pan your snare a little bit left or right, and you'll find that your kick will just suddenly start to sound a lot more open. So try this out. Tip number 3, and that would be to make use of channel strip plugins, okay? My favorite channel strip plugin of all time at the moment is the Brainworks SSL bundle. They've got a bunch of different stuff. This one is the G series, is honestly just my favorite. And the reason I like using channel strip plugins is A, it reduces the need for banks of different plugins, you know what I mean? You've got an all-in-one situation going on here. You've got your filter bank, you've got compression, you've got a gate and expander, you've got an equalizer, and you can do trimming of the input and output stage, okay? If you think about using a whole bunch of different plugins, you need a compressor, you need a separate equalizer, etc., etc. This is really great. This will also help you to get a consistent sound when mixing. So for example, if you want your mix to have that SSL flavor or even a knee flavor or anything of that nature, you can just start using one type of plugin and then mix your track as if it is being done on an analog console, okay? This is really nice to have. For example, we have 8 SSL equalizers, or actually 10 in total, with an SSL mixer, and man, it is just a pleasure to work with. But obviously in the box, this is really great. This allows me to make use of different types of console equalizers, and I really like using this method of workflow, so try it out. Tip number 4, and that would be to make use of preset channel routing. This can be done in the way of opening up a template. If you're in Pro Tools, you can obviously import different tracks and things like that. Me personally, I love to make use of kind of the way I like to work, right? So my template really is that I've got channels set up for my different vocals, okay? I've got tons of different presets that I can load up, and then I like to make use of all of my SFX sends, okay? So I've got presets for my delays, I've got presets for my different vocal widening effects, right? If I'm in the box, I've got tons of presets. If I'm out the box, I've got presets that I like to use. For example, the H3000 that we have, I like to use the 231 preset, micro pitch shift, just a little bit of widening on the vocal. But the point is that you can save a lot of time when working with a preset workflow, because it really allows you to just jump in and treat every different mix in the way that you like, okay? Over time, you're going to find that this will really greatly enhance your consistency. You're going to find that your clients are going to start enjoying your mixes more because they kind of know what to expect. People are going to know what sound you have, and this can only really be achieved by finding a different palette of plugins that you like, and then really starting to get to make use of that. So yeah, try it out. Mixing tip number 5, and that will be to actually make use of reductive EQ first, okay? It is so important when mixing, once you've done your gain staging, once you've done your panning, to really start listening to each sound in context of the mix and removing things that are either masking other elements or are adding too much energy within a certain frequency range, okay? Now, those extremes of the frequency ranges are going to be most important. For example, your bass region, so 100 and below, and then your treble region, which is really like for pop and hip hop, in my opinion, is 8K and above, okay? Having an excess of those frequency ranges is really going to make it hard to listen to your music, okay? This is a very common thing that you hear a lot of pro engineers talk spoke about, you know, what makes an amateur mix: too much bass, too much treble, too little bass, too little treble, right? So definitely make use of reductive EQ before boosting, and you're gonna find that you have less of a need to, you know what I mean, oh, why is my vocal not poking out, let me add treble. Simply removing some of the bass from a vocal will level it out. Okay, so definitely use this approach. It's helped me greatly, and it's made my mixes sound a lot more organic as well as full. So check that out. Tip number 6, and that would be an in the box technique that I've made use of for a few years now, and that is to stack your compressors. Okay, as you can see in this mix, I have 2 compressors that I'm using on this main vocal. I'll just play it for a little bit real quick.
Really in the game, any boys that playing 2K, fresh about the bed, trying to get some bread. Know that boy around, and he fucking with the feds. We be getting lit.
Now, as you can see right there, I have 2 compressors working in tandem. That would be, in this instance, the Waves Pi compressor and then the Waves C6. And the reason I'm doing this is that I just find when utilizing digital compression that when you do too much on one compressor, so for example, if I started doing 10 dB or 7 dB of compression with just one compressor, I'd find that it starts to really pump in an unnatural way. It doesn't really sound like, for example, an analog 1176. It just sounds squashed. It sounds unnatural to the human ear. So I would much rather do slight compression within the range that I like, and then utilize a secondary or a third compressor to really do the rest of that compression, which is really just light gain reduction, tucking things in the mix. Okay, this can work on the mix bus, this can work on vocals, on kicks, on snares, whatever it is, but really just try stack compressors, different flavors that you like, and you'll find that things start to sound a lot more natural, but most importantly tamed, right? Because that's the whole point of using a compressor, is to make sure things aren't jumping out. So try this out. Tip number 7 is another compression trick, and that is to make use of parallel compression, aka NY compression. What is parallel compression? Really, it is just to add whatever signal you want to parallel compress into a secondary bus, and then compressing that, and then leveling that back in the mix. And as you can see with this main vocal, I've got the CLA3, which I absolutely love for just getting a little bit more volume out of the mix. Again, even though we call this parallel compression, we can also just get a little more volume out of something, right? We don't necessarily have to be squashing things in order to call it parallel compression. All right, this is a trick that I learned from CLA, where he would simply, if he wanted more volume or flavor out of a sound, he would simply just route it to a secondary channel on his console. And even though there's just a little slight thing going on with each individual channel, you still get that flavor, right? There's no need to do too much. So as you can see right here,
really in the game, any boys that playing 2K, fresh about the bed, trying to get some bread. Know that boy around, and he fucking with the feds. We be getting lit, I put weed in the front. I got work.
As you can see, I'm literally just kissing this compressor, but I am gaining it quite hard, you know, using a tiny bit of gain reduction, and then the vocal just starts to open up. It sounds a lot more flavorful and natural. You know, we don't have to do crazy EQ and things like that. Obviously, you can do a parallel trick where you cut all of the bass out and boost the treble and things like that. Have as much fun as you want. Parallel compression is where it's at. Now, tip number 8 would be to make use of SFX sends. As you can see right here, alongside our parallel compression, we have a quarter note delay, a reverb, a flanger, which is a widener, and then a V room, which is essentially just a kind of like a room sound plugin. I think I'm using the, what would I be using? Just a meta flanger, right? It can be anything, but as you can see right here, I'm doing a little bit of an effect right here. Let's just mute these effects.
Really in the game, any boys that playing 2K, fresh about the bed, trying to get some bread. Know that boy around, and he fucking with the feds. We be getting lit, I put weed in the front.
Right, all those little things add up. I'm not going to go through every effect, but once we just start to kind of add things in, you know, subtly here and there, we really start to get this really nice depth being added into our vocals. So make use of your SFX sends. You know, don't think that this is something that you can look over. All the pros are making use of this technique. You should too. Alright, and my 10th and final tip would be to mix in stages. Alright, now you can customize this workflow to however you like. For me personally, I like to mix in 3 stages. Alright, and that stage 1 is going to be a cleanup stage, essentially where I am coloring in tracks, renaming things, getting rid of fake stereo files and things of that nature, then routing those things to all the various bits of outboard gear or to the designated tracks within my DAW. From then on out, I will then start mixing. Okay, I'll then mix the drums, mix the vocals in whichever order you like, again, fully customizable. But once I've done the whole mix and I'm pretty much happy with that, I will then leave the mix for a few hours, 2-3 hours, come back and then do a review session, basically where I'm just listening to reference mixes again. You know, I will have a reference track while I'm mixing, but just listening to bits and parts of different tracks. How does the top end sound? How does the low end sound? How did the mid sound on different speakers, right? I'm essentially reviewing and doing a pre-revision stage so that when I send off to a client, they don't have to be like, oh, the hi-hat's too loud, right? That's already been done. Then those revisions can be spent on mix tweaks that maybe they feel are more necessary, all right? So those are my 10 mixing tips. Hopefully, if you enjoyed the video, definitely make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Again, check out all of the links in the description. We have Pro Tools templates, we have FL Studio templates, we have all sorts of different templates for your DAW. We also do one-on-one Zoom consultations. So if you want to talk to me one-on-one, get some mixing advice, you know what I mean, get some mix reviews done, you can do that as well. We also have a mixing and mastering page where you can submit your mixes and get them cleaned up, sound really good, pump them through the GML equalizer. We got everything. It sounds really good. Check out our mixing courses as well, vocal recording course, vocal mixing course, as well as our vocal enhancer for FL Studio. That is just a really nice secret sauce gem to get more analog flavor out of your vocals. But if you enjoyed today's video, again, smash like. I'll check out the next one. Peace out.